Welcome to Learning Life Skills Together. This is our weekly community Zoom meeting where our guests help us to go deeper into the 4 life skills and open up a huge array of chances to practice them. Hello, everyone. This is number 73 in our weekly Zoom meetings. And right now we're working our way through each of the 4 activities that go along with the 4 skills. And we are up to number 3. And so the skill is resilience, the sort of getting through the tough times. And the activity is really big. It's making something. So we're going to talk about how that helps us get through tough times. And we're going to do it with the help of, a philosopher and a psychologist and, of course, a poet, since all of these explorations of the skills and activities bring us a poem and let us think through in that kind of a way. Maybe it's the kind of way that we don't usually think with a poet. So, as always, though, before we get into it, we're going to work with a practice, and a practice that can help us maybe to settle in and be ready to sort of think and to think clearly and maybe even to communicate clearly with others. So when you're ready, when it's comfortable for you, you could turn your attention into your body right now. Just feeling yourself where you are. And if it's okay where you are to close your eyes, you could close your eyes. So just coming into the feeling of your body in this place where you are, in this time when you are. So we're coming maybe out of the worries about the future or brooding on the past, right into this moment. Maybe you can just be here in this moment. Maybe you can feel your body in this moment. And maybe it even starts to settle down a little bit. Can you let gravity just hold you more so you have to do less work? And then maybe you could direct your attention into your hands. So just feeling the sensations on and in your hands right now. Maybe you feel where your hands are touching down. That sense of contact. Maybe they're touching each other. There's a sense of contact there. Maybe they're resting on your thighs or in your lap. And you can feel all that contact. And our hands are alive. The blood is flowing. The nerves are working. And so maybe you feel a sense of aliveness, a sense of movement, a sense of impulses to move. Maybe you want to move your hands and go ahead. move them, get them to where you want them, to where you think it would be good to hold them, and just keeping your mind in and on your hands. So we're focusing the mind a little bit on the sensations that we find in our hands in this moment. Maybe you notice that your mind wanders away from that, which is a natural thing, so it's not your fault or a problem. And you have a choice. You can bring your attention, bring your mind back to your hands. So come on back. But sometimes we go away, we can choose, and we can come back. We can do that as many times as we need to. Just noticing how connected you can be to the sensations in your hands. And then when you're ready, you could take a deeper breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And if you have had your eyes closed, you could open them. And so maybe you feel a little more ready to settle in and talk about resilience and making. And so we did this little practice of paying attention to one thing because this is kind of what we're talking about when we're talking about making. So we're talking about having a different focus than on, what I'm worried about in the present and or in the future. It's the future that I'm worried about in the present and the past. And so we sort of need to come into a focus, a single point of focus to take us out of all those worries and hurts and into this bigger place of just this moment and just what I'm doing. And so when we talk about making, we're talking about all kinds of things. It could be that I'm making breakfast for myself or for the family. And so I'm paying attention to that. That's where my mind is, not on the other stuff. And I can always come back to it. And this is really, really helpful in our resilience. So to be able to have something that we care about in the moment. And if we have then something that we actually care about for our life, that is what we want our children to have, right? Every kid deserves to have something that they care deeply about and that gives them the opportunity to act in the world. When they grow up, it might be their job. They might have a career doing something that they love. And, I sort of hope that for everyone, that what you're doing every day is something that you care about and something that you feel makes a difference in the world. When we have that, we are at our most resilient. We have a way of getting through times when things aren't going our way, when things look tough. when we're suffering, when we're in emotional and even physical pain. Having that sense of work, having that sense of something to do that matters really, really helps us. The psychologist that everybody has heard of, Sigmund Freud, whom we don't talk about very much anymore, really thought about this problem though. And what he came up with was that work is our sure way of connecting with ourselves, connecting ourselves to reality, and connecting ourselves to others. And when we are connected to ourselves, to reality, and to others, we have a level of mental wellness. We are doing all right, despite the suffering, maybe despite the pain that's going on. And so having that thing that we do is important. And the great French philosopher Voltaire wound up saying, okay, here's what we need to do to be well and to get through. And he said it's to cultivate our garden. So, so that can be literal. That can be, yeah, get out and dig in the dirt. And it can be to do that thing that really, really matters. And so the poem that I want to take us through really, I think, shows this up and shows even how we can think about it in terms of our kids. So this is a young person thinking about his father and his grandfather. So the poet is Seamus Heaney. He's an Irish poet that won the Nobel Prize. So, and this is his most famous poem. So this is pretty good, and really gets at some things. But some things you might not know is that potatoes were a main crop in Ireland, and the main way that people heated their houses back when this poem was written was by burning peat. And we all know peat moss, so it's an even heavier, denser thing than that. And so that gets cut out of the ground. It's a digging um, process, just like planting potatoes and harvesting potatoes, which are underground, is a digging process. And so this poem is called Digging. So I'm going to read it to you and we'll stop along the way and think about how it makes sense with this whole idea of having some work that matters. So between my finger and my thumb, the squat pen rests, snug as a gun. Under my window, a clean, rasping sound when the spade sinks into the gravelly ground. My father, digging. I look down. So here's the son in his room writing, and he hears a sound, looks around, and sees his father digging, right? So they're both working. They're both doing this thing that we're talking about. He looks down until the father's straining rump among the flower beds bends low and comes up 20 years away, stooping in rhythm through potato drills where he was digging. So this is his father's lifetime occupation, to dig in the earth as a farmer. Right? This is the thing that he did and that he cared about. The coarse boot nestled on the lug. So that's the part of the shovel you press down on. The shaft against the inside knee was levered firmly. He rooted out tall tops, buried the bright edge deep to scatter new potatoes that we picked, loving their cool hardness in our hands. By God, the old man could handle a spade, just like his old man. So this work of planting and harvesting, of digging, is one that's in the family. It's passed down. It's how they have gotten through all that time from grandfather to grandson now we're looking at. My grandfather cut more turf in a day. So turf is that peat we're talking about. My grandfather cut more turf in a day than any other man in Toner's bog. Once I carried him milk in a bottle, corked sloppily with paper. He straightened up to drink it and then fell to right away, nicking and slicing neatly, heaving sods over his shoulder, digging down and down for the good turf. Digging. And so here's his memory of his grandfather just taking this small break for a swig of fresh milk and bending right back over and putting his shovel, his spade into the turf, into the peat, digging. The cold smell of potato mold, the squelch and slap of soggy peat, the curt cuts of an edge through living roots awaken in my head. But I've no spade to follow men like them. So here he is, knowing all this, feeling its importance to his family. I've no spade to follow men like them. Between my finger and my thumb, the squat pen rests. I'll dig with it. And so he dug all the way to the Nobel Prize. So I think there's something in here for us to see sort of the continuity of how work gets us through and how it's not the particular form of work. It's not, oh, digging turf is best. Oh, digging potatoes is best. Oh, digging with your pen into poetry is best. It's that the fact of our focusing down on one thing that matters. A little bit like we did with our hands when we did that practice to calm ourselves. So, what can we do? How can we give our kids this? Well, we give it, first of all, in the way we model it, in the way we have a focus, in the way we get through tough times by digging down, finding what matters, and paying attention to that to give us a break from the worries and the hurt. This is how it works, right? So really, there are three ways of working with and getting ourselves through tough times. So one of them, as Freud, the psychologist, points out, is, a common one that often does not work out very well, and that's using some chemical to make yourself feel better. And so he sort of dismisses that, although sometimes we need it. Sometimes we need to go to the doctor. We need to get that kind of stuff going. But otherwise, taking ourselves out of ourselves in a chemical way is not that great and not something we wish for our children. So we don't wish them drugs and drinking and those kinds of things. We wish them a clear, clean way to get through the tough times. And so when we show that, hey, the things that I care about, my work, my hobbies, and of course, my love for you, is what gets me through. It's those single pointed areas of focus that really work, that really get us through. So we're hurting, we know it, we throw ourselves into our job, our hobby, our loving and raising our children. And that makes a bigger space for us to be in, not the little tiny one where we're all squeezed into just our hurt and our suffering. But we open up. That gives us some relief, frankly, doesn't it? It takes us out of where we are, which is very uncomfortable, takes us into a bigger place. And so we want that for our children. Now, when it comes to using making in that way, when they're tiny and they're upset, we put crayons and paper in front of them, and maybe they need to be prompted what to draw. Maybe they just know what to do and they do it. And before you know it, they're calmer. You've, if you have kids of the age where they can hold a crayon, you've probably seen this happen. And so making right at the start there is so good for us. So we move from that level into what are the things that really interest my child? Now, they may be things that interest you. They may be digging potatoes, just like the dad here. Maybe not. And so we really want to be helping our kids to find the things that matter to them. And we have to show them as much of the world as we can. We can offer what we know. We can do all that modeling. We can show them how it is that we do our big passion, our big hobby. We can talk to them about our work and have them understand that. And certainly we see that in families, right? Often the children do what it is that the parents did. And didn't work out for Seamus Heaney. He dug, but he dug in a whole different way. And it worked out. So, what we're doing with many of the programs in our Zoom meetings, many of the meetings with people have been around things that our kids could get passionate about. So going all the way back to fishing or hiking or doing art or reading stories, which leads to writing stories, which leads to a whole other area, right? So we're using this idea of making in the biggest way possible. And we're saying, what can we show our kids in our world that matters and that could be a focus for them? You know, we want to expose them so that they can find the thing that they're passionate about. So there's another dimension to this. You know, the grandfather didn't even stop. He took his slug of milk and went right back to doing what he had to do, wanted to do to take care of his family, to get through tough times, to heat his house, all of those things. Necessity and perhaps that single focus that helps us to feel better. So I'm going to read this poem again to end our time together here. So it is called Digging. Between my finger and my thumb, the squat pen rests, snug as a gun. Under my window, a clean, rasping sound when the spade sinks into gravelly ground. My father digging. I look down till his straining rump among the flower beds bends low, comes up 20 years away, stooping in rhythm through potato drills where he was digging. The coarse boot nestled on the lug, the shaft against the inside knee was levered firmly. He rooted out tall tops, buried the bright edge deep to scatter new potatoes that we picked, loving their cool hardness in our hands. By God, the old man could handle a spade, just like his old man. My grandfather cut more turf in a day than any other man on Toner's bog. Once I carried him milk in a bottle, corked sloppily with paper. He straightened up to drink it, then fell to right away, nicking and slicing neatly, heaving sods over his shoulder, going down and down for the good turf, digging. The cold smell of potato mold, the squelch and slap of soggy peat, the curt cuts of an edge through living roots awaken in my head. But I've no spade to follow men like them. Between my finger and my thumb, the squat pen rests. I'll dig with it. So generations teaching generation about how work, how that single focus, how making a difference in the world helps us get through tough times. So I'll leave you with that thought. Maybe you're going back to work. Maybe you're going to go do something that you're really passionate about. So think about passing it on.